Since 1954, Terrebonne General has been a beacon of health and hope in our community. As we mark 7 decades of dedication to your well-being, Terrebonne General Health System remains committed to advancing healthcare, improving lives, and expanding our services to meet your evolving needs. In celebrating our past, we look forward to a future filled with promise and progress. Your health is our legacy. To discover more, visit tghealthsystem.com.
First of all, thank you for coming, especially firemen's wives, past grand marshals, and everyone here who supports the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. We welcome you and we thank you. You're here for the 150th year celebration of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. How about that, 150 years? Give everybody a big round of applause. Okay, if everyone will all stand, we'll have the presentation of the colors by Nathan Richard, Walton Guidry, Byron Onkall, Red Onkall, James Nakan, and Dean Mathern. And please stay standing for the national anthem by the Houma Terrebonne Stage Band.
Thibodaux Fire Department, honor guard, stand by. Honor guard, attention. Port, port. Ready, step. Thibodaux Fire Department and Universal personnel, present arms. Part-time, march!
We'll now have the invocation from Father Vic Dela Cruz from St. Joseph's Co-Cathedral.
For over 200 years, the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department and St. Joseph Church in Thibodaux has been partnered in service and in ministry. Tonight, St. Joseph Co-Cathedral is giving all active members a memento of your 150th anniversary. After tonight's celebration, please see Mr. Ken Bushwa for your special gift from the church. I was hoping to give everyone a gift, but most of my budget went to the auction. And so I can only give to those who are active. If you promise to stay for another 25 years, I'll give you all a gift. The prayer I composed for all of you tonight comes from your company motto. So if you can recognize your company motto, this prayer is yours. Lord Jesus, you told your disciples that we must always be ready, for we do not know the time nor hour when the need will arise. We ask that you lead all our deeds, not words, speak for our readiness. We have all placed our trust in you, as those who are in need place their trust in us. Allow us to be here for duty wherever we are needed, so that our full and attentive presence will be the actions that will speak of our dedication and determination. In the exercise of our duties, help us to always respond effectively to all our friends in need, so that in being ever alert at all times, in all circumstances, and to all people, we will be able to provide service above self and fulfill the oaths and promises and pledges we have made to you, to our brothers and sisters, and the company we serve. Having said these prayers in the mottos of our companies, we all now pause to remember in silence and gratitude the memory of those who have served your people through their companies and now resting in peace. Grant them, O Lord, grace, happiness, and peace. May their souls, through your mercy and love, rest in peace. As you have called your disciples to serve after your examples and teachings, empower all of us to do the same with generosity of heart and mind, so that, as we stand together before your presence, O Lord, people of equal dignity and gifts, we may someday receive the reward you have promised to your faithful servants and hear you say, "Well done, good and faithful servant, come and share your master's joy." We make all these prayers in your name, who live and reign with the Father and the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Having placed ourselves before the presence of the Lord, let us now invoke God's blessings upon our gathering, the gifts of our friendship that we celebrate, and the fruits of the earth that we are about to partake, as together we say, "Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which are about to receive from thy bounty, through Christ our Lord." Amen.
Thank you, Father. And now we've got some assignment of duties and a welcome by our own Fire Chief, Tony Boudreau.
Okay, thank you, Gene. Assignment of duties: in the event of a medical call, Rescue 1 and the chief on call will be responding. In the event of a motor vehicle accident, Rescue 1, Engine 19, and the chief on call will be responding. A fire alarm, Engine 19, and the chief on call. In any report of fire, we will respond with the accompaniment. And our brothers at St. John are also standing by this evening to assist us with anything that we may need assistance with. So we thank them for their help. Okay. Welcome, family and guests of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department 150-year celebration. My name is Tony Boudreau, and I have the distinct privilege to serve as the 32nd Fire Chief of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. Tonight, we will celebrate our history, show our appreciation to our membership, recognize the people who support our service to our community. But before we jump into that, we must recognize a few special guests that are here with us tonight. Chief Justice John Weimer, State Representative Brian Fontenot, Louisiana State Fire Marshal Chief Brian Adams. I didn't see Archie, Lafourche Parish President Archie Chasson. Did Archie make it this evening? Or is he off serving the parish? He might not have made it. Lafourche Parish Sheriff Craig Weber. Lafourche Parish District Attorney Christine Russell. I don't know if I saw our assessor, Wendy Thibodaux. Is Wendy here? Well, we thank her for her service. City officials, Mayor Kevin Claymore. Council Representatives Mike Nakan. Chad Meir. Gene Richard. I saw our city marshals here, Mr. Calvin Cooks. If I missed anybody, please send all complaints to Jimmy Leday. Look, everybody here tonight is special, and I would love to announce every single person here because that's what makes the Thibodaux Fire Department great, but Jimmy cut me off, so I'm sorry. Fire protection in the town of Thibodaux dates back to 1843. When the town of Thibodaux purchased a dozen leather buckets and a few hand tools. In 1874, 31 years later, 3 fire companies, Thibodaux Fire Company No. 1, Protective Fire Company No. 2, and Home Hook and Ladder Fire Company came together to form the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department and to lay the foundation of what we are today. For 150 years, the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department has provided protection and emergency response to our community and the citizens of Thibodaux. Members have dropped whatever they were doing, day or night, to respond to community members in need within the boundaries of our city and well beyond. You will hear from a panel tonight of department members who represent a cross-section of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. They will tell stories of some of those unique calls that our members have answered whenever local citizens or our brothers from other departments were in need of assistance. From Morgan City to Houma, Galliano to St. James, from Kenner to Labadeville, our members have answered countless calls for help. And being no strangers to the disasters left in the wake of hurricanes, our members have even responded to Lake Charles, Florida, and everywhere in between to provide assistance to those most in need. The Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department has also been a leader when it comes to fire equipment, always constantly striving to improve service to our community and to protect our members' safety. Many area firsts have happened in Thibodaux. The first ladder truck in the region, the first emergency light unit in the region, the first set of extrication tools. And we are always constantly upgrading the personal protective gear and tools and equipment for our members and their safety. We have come a very long way since leather buckets. But our reach hasn't stopped there. Our members have made history statewide, impacting the Louisiana Fire Service beginning in 1906, when Chief Charles A. Riviere became a charter member of and helped to create the Louisiana State Firemen's Association. Chief Riviere in 1909 became the second president of the LSFA and the first of 9 members of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department to serve as president, making us the department that has produced the most LSFA presidents in the history of the organization. In fact, future president number 10 is sitting in the audience tonight, and he's doing an outstanding job servicing and representing the 3rd District. From leather buckets to the current units today, from call boxes and fire horns to today's advanced communications, from raincoats to today's personal protective equipment, we have seen tremendous changes over the last 150 years. But despite those changes, 2 things remain constant since the beginning of this organization. The first is community support has been steadfast. Whenever needed, our community has been there supporting the fair, participating in drive-through hamburger sales, during the pandemic, attending parades, buying raffle tickets, and so very much more. Community members have stepped up to serve as grand marshals, helping make our fairs a great success, and countless members of city administrations over the years have provided support to our department. Through it all, our community support has been unwavering. The second is the commitment and dedication of our members and the members who came before us. The commitment of the men and women of this department is like no other. I can't imagine there being a better example of dedication and volunteerism anywhere. There are simply no words adequately to describe it. Our members are special, and they love our community and service. So where does that leave us? The members and the leadership of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department are the current guardians of this incredible organization. It has been passed on from generation to generation for 150 years. Our responsibility is to leave it better than we found it and to help prepare the next generation to become the new guardians. We thank you all for being here, for all your dedication, for all your support. Now please sit back and relax and enjoy this evening as we celebrate the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we've got a special presentation by our Fire Board President, Mr. Jimmy Leday. Jimmy?
Thank you, Gene. Tonight, as Tony described so well, we're here to celebrate 150 glorious years of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. 150 years of serving the citizens of the city of Thibodaux. When the horn sounded back in the day to when our pager tone goes off today, we stop whatever we are doing to serve those citizens of the city of Thibodaux. We leave the dinner table, our kids' baseball game. We even get out of bed at 2 a.m. in the morning, all to serve the citizens of Thibodaux at perhaps their worst moment. Behind the scenes are our wives. You support us whenever we do these things. You take care of everything while we are out helping and serving others. We want to honor and thank you tonight. As the stage band plays It's a Wonderful World, you ladies out there are always make our worlds wonderful. Now, we recognize and realize we have female members within the fire department today. We also want to acknowledge you and thank you, ladies, for stepping up to directly serve the people of Thibodaux. And finally, we have ladies as wives of grand marshals or wives of other distinguished guests with us tonight. Thank you, too, for your enduring support over all these years. All of you, please accept a small token of our love and thanks for all that you do for us. Thank y'all.
And with us tonight is also Mayor Kevin Clemo, and we're going to ask Kevin to come up and say a few words. He's a strong, strong supporter of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. Mayor Clemo.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly an honor to be here. You know, it's a little bit overwhelming to look out at this crowd, I'll be honest with you. But the one thing I see dedication. I see countless amount of hours in training. But when I think about the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department, the word that comes to my mind is courage. The courage to leave your family at any hour. As Jimmy said, leave the ball games, leave the functions, 24/7 for almost complete strangers most of the time. That's impressive. That's impressive. It is certainly an honor to represent the city of Thibodaux and support you guys. It's probably the easiest part of my job. And I'll just say this on behalf of the entire city council, my entire administration, and personally myself, thank you for 150 years of dedication to the city. It wouldn't be fair if I wouldn't acknowledge the wives, the mamas, the husbands sometimes that allow the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department employees or a group to get out there and do what they do. So I'll just end this with a sincere and heartfelt thank you for your dedication. Thank you for always making the citizens and myself feel as safe as anything I've ever felt. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, Built Ford Tough.
The truth of the matter is that our guest speaker tonight really doesn't need an introduction. He's well known throughout the fire service and the state of Louisiana, and he's certainly no stranger to Thibodaux. H. Butch Browning is the retired Louisiana State Fire Marshal, where he oversaw the operation of building construction, plan review, fire code enforcement, fire education, fire arson investigation. He also coordinated with local fire and emergency service organizations to aid with assets in times of disaster. For over 35 years, Chief Browning has served in all levels of the fire service profession. His accomplishments include being an Eagle Scout, past president of the National Association of State Fire Marshals, past president of the Louisiana State Firemen's Association, past president of the Louisiana Arson and Fire Prevention Association, and a graduate of the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Program. As you can see, he certainly rises to the top of every challenge. He currently serves as the Executive Director of the National Association for State Fire Marshals and the Superintendent for the West Baton Rouge Parish Fire Department. He also serves on the National Fire Protection Association Board of Directors. Now, he gave me very specific instructions. He said, I'm going to send you to Bayou, but I don't want you to read it all. But I think we've covered it pretty well. He's a friend to the fire service. He's a friend to the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. Please join me in welcoming Chief Butch Browning to give us a speech.
Thank you, Chief. They already tell me I have 5 minutes. I mean, I can't even tell you the joke I got for you in 5 minutes. You know, it's indeed an honor for me to be here. And, you know, when Chief Boudreaux asked me to speak, I said, you know, I'd love to do that. I'd love to come. I said, but why me? He said, well, honestly, Butch, he said, it was a unanimous vote of our membership that you come and speak with one dissenting vote. And I said, who is that? He said, well, that's that guy, Nathan Richard, that you beat him cooking jambalaya at Nichols' football game. But I still like you, Nathan. So coming, you know, getting ready to come, and he told me, look, we're looking forward for you to come. We want to talk about, you know, this great accomplishment, this journey of Thibodaux Fire Department and all the great things. And hey, look, feel free to bring your girlfriend or your wife. I said, well, Chief, I better bring my wife to this event. So I have my wife Joy with me, and it's certainly a good time. So thank you for being here with me, Joy, and keeping us going. I got to tell you, there's a lot that I wanted to say, and there are a lot of things that I kind of wrote down. But you know, the more I got here, the more I realized the uniqueness of this fire department. The more I realized that this department is certainly unlike any other volunteer fire department in the state of Louisiana, but I'll say it's unlike most fire departments in America. What you have been able to do, yes, clap for that. That's very good. What you've been able to do and what you've been able to produce for this community, the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department is no doubt the #1 civic, benevolent, giving organization in this city. Am I right about that? There's no other. So many communities are striving to have what you have. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little while, but I want to stay on the importance of, #1, recognizing the history. And I think one of the things that we have got to stop and take pause over, but I really woke up now. I think one of the things that we have to stop and take pause over is the people who are not here tonight. The people that date back 150 years ago. And we have got to put ourselves in their spirit, because they had a vision. They had an idea for the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. And I'll say they're looking down today with pride and with so much gratitude that you people are sitting here to make their idea continue to be alive. You know, I hear the story of the city buying the buckets and the hoses and giving to the citizens to protect themselves. Well, that's exactly what is still going on today. The Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department are citizens still protecting themselves. So you've upheld that vision, that tradition, and I thank you for that. I think about the contributions of so many people. I mean, you know, in my career, Thibodaux was always a place to go. You talked about 9 past presidents. That meant there was 9 banquets, some of which were in this harangue center, where firefighters from all across the state came for the LSFA convention. And you people out there, many of you served the same meals that you just served tonight. Thibodaux has always been a department that shepherded not only what they do, but tried to help every fire department that they came in contact with. And Louisiana's better today because of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. I think of people like Chief Mike Oncall Sr., who was a dear friend of mine, served with him on the board. One of the hardest things I had to do was present his family with a fire helmet at his funeral. One of the hardest things I ever did, because the man stood for what was right. You know, I used to pick at him. I said, Mike, if they cut you, you would bleed fire department. It's the kind of guy that he was. People like Curtis Hugh that would aggravate the hell out of you selling tickets for MDA. I mean, literally, I had to say, Curtis, I had to put my money in my pocket and say, Curtis, my wallet's empty. But it was about a passion. It's amazing things in this history. But you know, as I sat here just a short time, I was listening to stories, and you all are making history right now. And the fact that you memorialize that history, the fact that you save that history, the fact that you tell these stories moving forward, that's what makes the fire service great. I'll tell you, the best firefighters I know weren't the best people that attended all the training, maybe wasn't the fastest to put their gear on, you know, maybe wasn't the quickest person to get the hose off the truck. But they were the folks that could sit in the firehouse and connect with the members, connect with the people in that fire department, and give them ideas, give them education. The best members. You know, I'll say this, a lot of people strive to be wealthy. A lot of people strive to be popular. A lot of people strive, you know, to have the most beautiful of things. But you people in this room and the people before you, you just strived to be a firefighter. And I'm going to say thank you for that. Thank you so much for what you do, and let's just not forget our history. And, you know, enrolling into volunteerism, I think that's a whole different discussion. You know, certainly, you know, we've been ravaged by a little storm hit here. In fact, it's the first time I've been back here since the storm. I saw some roof damage coming here. But, of course, you know, Helena was a terrible hurricane, you know, ravaged Florida, all the way into the Carolinas and Tennessee. Had the opportunity to work with state fire marshals in those states. Been to North Carolina twice and seen the devastation firsthand. And, I mean, it's just terrible. But every place I went to, what did I see? Firefighters. Many were volunteers. Had a discussion with a group of firefighters who, in Black Mountain, North Carolina, they were across a raging river without the equipment they needed. They had their fire truck, they had their bunker gear, not the proper equipment, trying to rescue a family. Moments before they could cross this river to get to that family, the whole house washed away. And to this point, the family has never been found. This is what firefighters do. This is what you see every day when you respond. And volunteerism is important. It's very important to Thibodaux, and it's proven to be one of the biggest services it could ever have. You know, so many fire departments today, even departments that have career members, are turning out fire trucks and putting 8, 6, 4, maybe 10 people on a working structure fire. That's not what happens in Thibodaux. In Thibodaux, you have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people on a working structure fire. So I imagine y'all probably have a lot of infighting, because I know all those people are trying to get to the nozzle when they get there. But you truly provide a service like no other. So when I tell you it's hard to stand before you and tell you about Thibodaux and tell you my thoughts and try and motivate you, I don't know how to motivate you, because you're doing such a wonderful job. But we need you. And listen, volunteerism, they can say, is a hard thing. It's on a decline. People don't want to volunteer. And I'll say people do want to volunteer if they're given the right opportunities. But it's a dangerous profession. Any one of you tonight can go home and answer a call, and we know the perils that could happen. You know, I always say, the public makes that 911 call. And when that call comes in, you know, we get it in our fire department and we respond with everything that we have. You know, the old thing of, you bring everything and hope you don't need it. You get to that call and bad things happen. And what happens at fires in many cases is people die. People die in fires. This is not a social club you're in. You all are in the life-saving business. People die in fires. But in rare cases, and if it happens one time, it should never happen. But in rare cases, sometimes the people who die are the men and women sitting at the table that you're at right now. They don't go home to their families. And we have so much work to do in our fire service, both locally, both on a state level and both on a national level, to bring the relevance and bring support. It is disappointing to me. We can watch the TV and we can see, the things that are funded by government and funded by different organizations, and we have fire departments that are struggling. But you all overcome that. So it brings me to the uniqueness of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. And I used to use this word unicorn. My wife says you can't use that word. But Thibodaux is a unicorn. Y'all are the most unusual department. But let me tell you how you got there. Because what you never did was you never forgot your roots, and you never forgot where you came from. So here it is. I grew up in a small town outside of Baton Rouge. I was badly burned when I was 3 years old on my feet. My dad took me across the street and put me in the bathtub, where I later went to the hospital, and obviously it didn't take me out. I'm here today. So my dad joined the volunteer fire department. So I grew up in the volunteer fire department. Well, the community I grew up in, the same people that you're in church with, the same people that you're at the baseball field with, the same people you spend 30 minutes in the grocery store parking lot talking to, the list goes on and on and on, they were all in the fire department. I mean, when a fire happened in our community, Father, they had to shut church down. They just had to pause church because the firemen are leaving. It's the kind of community we grew up in. So the fire department was the most important thing. I'll tell you today, that is still the case here in Thibodaux. If I was ever to run for office, which I never will, you can put that to the rest, and it had Thibodaux on the ballot, I'd have to try and join the Thibodaux Fire Department, because there's no way I could win without the support of the Thibodaux Fire Department. And I've actually heard some stories from people who, a long time ago, about Thibodaux, but I won't get into all that. But truly, you all have been a guiding light in what makes this city great. You know, from the generations of families who have volunteered in this fire department to the new people who come in, to the business people who support this fire department both financially and both from the standpoint of letting their employees leave work to go to a fire. All those things are amazing, but that's not given to you. You've earned that. You've earned that. You know, one of the proudest things that I have coming here, and I've been to your parades a few times, and I enjoy coming to them, but one of the proudest things is to watch your members, by companies, of course. I don't think you let companies mix together yet, but by companies. And they tell me I could be a little funny. I'm not going to get, and I know how that works. I've actually been called to Thibodaux to help, I guess, negotiate some union contracts, and it was pretty fun. But to watch those companies not ride the fire truck, but to walk the streets of Thibodaux, and to watch the people of this community come out and stand on the sidelines with their children and to clap and to cheer and to thank you for what you do. Now look, y'all like that, don't you? Well, you deserve that, because if it had not been for you, this fire department would look a lot different. It would look majorly different, and the people would not get the service they get today. Because the reality is, fire protection is expensive, and many communities only provide what they can afford to provide. And you all bridge the gap with your ability to leverage those funds, those donations. To say nothing about the fair. I mean, that is like, y'all's Fireman's Fair is bigger than the Louisiana Fair in Shreveport, than the Greater Baton Rouge State Fair. It's a huge event. And I will say that, nobody that lives in Thibodaux, if they live here, they either plan to go to the fair that weekend or they get out of town because it's too crowded, kind of like Mardi Gras. Y'all have truly done a great job with that. So, it brings me to this 150 years. And I think, wow, 150 years from now. And what I worry about in 150 years from now is if the people who hold the reins, if the people who are in charge right now, if the people who are volunteering in this department doesn't continue to do even better what the people of the past has done, this could be lost. And we don't want that. But the reality is we do have to change what we're doing. I've seen a lot of innovation in equipment and services over the years in this department. It's because you've had leadership, and you've had steadfast leadership. We've got to keep that leadership alive. And frankly, we got to find the next generation. We got to find the next group of people who want to volunteer in this fire department, but raise their hand and swear to the oath of what this department means, because it's a very sacred oath. It's a very dangerous oath. It's an oath of selfless service. It's an oath that's not going to pay you a single dollar. In fact, it's going to cost you financially, and it's going to cost you physically. It's going to cost your family if you decide to do this. But you're going to save people's property, and you're going to save people's lives. So I do have a message that I do want to leave you with, and it fits exactly in with what the chief said. We got to worry about the future. And y'all do have a lot of mottos. And one of the mottos that I like is become something greater. And when I say become something greater, I look across this room, and you all have become something greater because of what you do. But we got to find the people who want to become something greater. So you know me, when I give speeches, I always end with my little bullet points. So my bullet points are going to be very profound to you. So the first thing is, look, to become greater, to make this department better, to bring the right people in, we have to celebrate. And certainly tonight we're celebrating a milestone of 150 years. Had a conversation earlier. When I used to come to these December banquets, we tried to get these meetings over with before 8:30, 9 o'clock, because we went down the street and had an open bar and all kind of stuff. So I don't know if y'all celebrating like that tonight. Maybe with the wives and the girlfriends here, you can't. But listen, celebrate what you got. Celebrate your progress. As you move forward in this 150 years, celebrate the progress and the successes that you do. We have to constantly be reaffirming our commitment. The commitment to doing the training, to making all of the requirements that we have in this department is a big commitment. I mean, in fact, going to the calls, in some cases, might be some of the easier stuff that you do. It's the things that you require your members to do every week and every month that are important. Reaffirm that commitment to giving all you can to this department and bringing people in to do that. We've got to get out and talk more about this success, okay? We have got to get out, and we've got to inspire others through the success of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. I looked at your website a couple weeks ago. It's beautiful, very modern day website. Those are the kind of things that are going to be attracting to young people. Tell your story in everywhere possible. Listen, this whole world is about building relationships. And this department is a humble and kind department and has great relationships. But I'll tell you, if you're not building relationships every day on being selfless and on helping people succeed, not help Thibodaux succeed, those relationships are what matter. You know, my favorite mayor that I worked for, he told me, he said, you know, you're going to do fine in this job as long as you can share the vision of the mayor and the council. And as long as the mayor and the council don't ask you to do anything wrong, your department's going to strive. I'll say that's what you've done. You all have created the vision for this whole city. And I'll say in many cases that most of the elected officials and appointed officials and those folks look to you to set that vision. And you should keep doing that. Finally, I just got to tell you, you know, there's nothing more than I could do than Joy and I being here telling you how much we appreciate you and telling you how much we want 150 years from now, which I won't be here, I don't think, for the celebration to be even more firefighters in this city, because the city will be bigger, to be even more proactive and productive that you are. But, you know, I've just got to tell you that if you can strive to be a better firefighter, if you can strive to be a better seller of the Thibodaux Fire Department, and if you can strive to be a humble servant to the people in Thibodaux, the next 150 years is done. So I certainly want to ask all the firefighters to stand, and let's give them all a round of applause and be recognized. And it's been a great honor for me to be here, and I just want to leave your brother and sister firefighters with this message. May God keep you in the palm of his hand. May he always protect you, and know that you always have a friend in a firefighter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for those inspiring words and the message, your leadership. We just want to give you a small token of our appreciation for you enjoy joining us tonight for this special evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you again, and it's a great career now when you're not a public employee and you can accept alcohol, gift cards. You know, it's really a great world. Thank you.
Notice we had to hide it in the bottom of the podium, and I apologize. I forgot to give him the Omaha instructions, but I think we survived. Benton, thank you very much for your assistance in helping us secure Chief Browning to be our guest speaker for tonight. Gene?
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Loosen your ties a little bit, grab a beer, we'll sit down and relax for a little while. We got some stories to tell you. Where's my 9 guys? Come on up here. While they're coming up here, I want to reiterate just elaborate a little bit on what Mr. Browning said, in the fact that part of the life of fire departments is stories. And there's stories from 150 years back, and there's stories from the last generation, and there's stories from this generation. And there's something that the fire chief, Tony, and Jimmy, and some of the other guys in charge want to do is start remembering our stories. There's lots of stories and there's lots of memories that belong to this Thibodaux Fire Department. And in the future, starting tonight, we're going to remember some of them, and we're going to keep talking about others, and we're going to write them down, and we're going to record some of them, and we're going to have stories for generations and generations. And these guys, these 9 guys up here, represent all of you out there in uniform. They just happen, we can't have all of you, but we've got 9 of you. And if we grouped everybody here in 9s, we could do the same thing. These guys are you. They represent you. They've got 9 stories. Each groups of 9 out there, of you, of us, have 9 stories. So we're going to have a little fun. Everybody's got good stories. Everybody's got happy stories. Everybody's got sad stories and memories. Everybody's got harmful stories and memories, but they're stories. And they're things that happen during the course of being a fireman and during the course of being a Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department fireman. So here's some of them. And I'm going to start with the first, because once these guys start talking, I'll never get the mic again. So I have one memory, early memory of the Thibodaux Fire Department. I'm not originally from Thibodaux. I'm a transplant. I came here, Bernadette and I came here in 1998, 1999. One of those years we moved here. We were from St. Charles. Okay, I was from the country. Like Miss Contravey, here you go. Like, we was from the country, and we came to town once a week to get groceries and, you know, some other things. But anyway, I was a farmer, and we finished grinding early one year, and my dad said, take one of the tractors, hook up 2 wagons to it, and go help Mr. Lapine at Laurel Valley. Mr. Lapine at Laurel Valley was late every year getting his crop in. I was a kid, probably 15 or 16 years old, maybe 17, I don't remember, and I came and we started hauling cane for Mr. Lapine, and one year it got rained out a little early, and I had the field. My dad let me come to work in the field truck because our tractor was here, and I came to work, and we got off about, I don't know, I think it was rained out. We used to go from Ken to Kent, and I think we got rained out about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So I said, you know, back in those days, if you could, I was a little young, but you could get in a bar, and if you knew somebody, you could probably get a beer. So I went to see my cousin Claude at Renee's, and was able to get a beer, and the bar was full. All the stools were taken, and there were some guys sitting at the other table across from the bar area itself, and all of a sudden the fire horn goes off. Boom! And here it goes. Renee's bar vacated in about 10 seconds. The only 2 left in the bar were me and Abby Tabor. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? There were wallets all on the bar, money all over the bar, hats all over the bar, everything was gone. It was just me and Abby Tabor. And I looked down the bar, and Uncle Claude was there. He said, don't you touch a thing, boy. They're coming back in 10 seconds. I said, what? He said, the fire horn rang. You didn't hear it? They're firemen. The bar was empty. And that was my first impression of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. But it's everybody knows Abby Tabor, you know what I'm talking about. It was me and him, you know. But that was my first impression. So you got 9 guys here that's got stories way better than that. And we met a couple of times, and we didn't rehearse anything, did we, guys? We got Mike Nakan, Chris Riviere, Mr. Paul Nakan, Barry, Charlie, Josh, Glenn, Benton, and our Chief Tony. I think I'm going to start with Chris Riviere, because Chris is kind of like me. You give him a mic and you give him an audience, he knows everybody and he knows everything. You know them guys? We kind of alike. And when I'm talking about you, and when we were going, when we didn't rehearse this, but we did meet a little bit. I want you guys to know, do you know that Chris tried to restripe Highway 1? You want to tell them about that?
I don't know if you caught. Must be on mute.
Green. Pull it down. You can hear me? Nope. It's green.
Malfunction.
I don't know if it's restriping Highway 1, but we had a fire in the country club, and I caught engine 17, and it has this big yellow 4-inch supply line. So I'm driving down the highway, see the smoke in the neighborhood, getting all ready to go, and I hear on the radio, engine 17, you're losing all your hose on the highway. I laid 400 feet of 4-inch hose on LA1.
And you weren't even near the fire?
Wasn't near the fire.
Okay. You got that mic working?
No, we'll use this one. Mike, your dad, of course, some of your family was in the fire department before me. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, my dad was a firefighter in Protective Fire Company number 2. And, all right. And it's because of him that I joined the fire department. But it's, I'm going to laugh on this one. It's a very unique thing that happened. One day, well, I can remember when I was 5 years old, my dad and I were riding in Thibodaux, and the fire horn blew. Him being a fireman, drove to the Protective Fire Station on Maron Street. He gets out of the vehicle, closes the door, and tells me, "Don't go nowhere, I'll be right back." Imagine that. I'm 5 years old. My daddy gets out. Then I see the fire truck leaving out the station. I don't know where he's going. I'm by myself, this time crying, kicking, screaming. Don't know when he's coming back, if he's coming back. It was that moment that I knew I would be a firefighter. It still kind of affects me, knowing that he left my ass. But I knew I never would want to be left alone again. And one day, maybe, just maybe, I would drive a fire truck. And the rest is history. Because I think I've driven plenty fire trucks over my years. But I got one word of advice to you young guys. Do not leave your 5-year-old child in a vehicle. If you do, you will be arrested. Your child will go through psychiatric treatment, and no telling what will happen. But back then, days were different. They didn't worry about children being left in a car, and so that was the reason I joined the fire department, because one day I just wanted to drive that fire truck.
Butch talked about Mike alcohol in part of his speech, and as you know, as you well know, with you and the 9 that are up here, it is a lot of times about family. And we only got one mic. We're supposed to have a couple more. We only got one. Josh, grab that mic. I want you to talk about a little bit about the family that goes on in the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department.
All right. Well, my family it's a family tradition. I knew one day that I was going to be a fireman. My grandfather, all of his brothers, and most of the brother-in-laws were all members of Fire Company number 1. I knew one day I was going to be a member of Fire Company number 1. My inspiration was standing on the side of Jackson Street, handing out beer. That was out. My dad wasn't a fireman, but my grandfather, my uncles, a lot of my cousins that I called uncles were all firemen. And when Fire Company number 1 would come down Jackson Street, it was our job to hand out beers. And I was proud, and I always wanted to be a fireman. It wasn't a matter of if I was going to be a fireman, but when I was going to do it. Now, my proudest moment as a fireman was signing my son's applications. And I'm proud to say that my son's a part of the 4th generation or 5th generation of the Oncal family, Fire Company number 1. Sorry.
Charlie.
Yeah.
What was your most memorable moment since you've been in the fire department?
Probably my most memorable moment was the fire we had at Leggett Tank Farm in Vacherie. That was pretty much a challenge. When we were paged out, we were told that it was a small tank fire that needed just a little foam to be put out. When we turned onto the river road, there were flames shooting about 200 feet in the air. And we were the first truck they pulled in front of the tank. We get off the truck, and the guy that's in charge of the tank farm tells us, man, this is a good place to get killed. It's like, thank you, man, I appreciate that. But we had foam all over the place. We had foam airlifted from the Coast Guard. We had foam coming from every place you could imagine. We were pouring foam straight into the water tank rather than using the foam system just to get it out as fast as we can through the deck gun. The chief at the time, Thibodaux Benoit, they put him in charge of the scene. And he decided to have the guys at the farm pump the tank down because when the lightning hit it, it formed a dome over the tank and we really couldn't get anything in the tank. So he had them pump the tank down until there was just a little bit left in, and we were able to go in and extinguish it with a hand line. So I would think that's probably the hairiest moment I've ever been in.
Give it to Barry. Barry, what's the biggest fire you ever went to?
Probably the Thibodaux Funeral Home, Landry's Funeral Home, Roxas. I remember back in '77, we got a phone call from my house. It's the captain's wife. He said, Barry, go to the station. You got to go to Galliana with the light truck. We was the only light truck in the Foose Parish. They had somebody had died in that fire, and they needed lights to go look for that body. The Safari Club in Galliana. That's the fastest I ever been to Galliana. I followed Thibodaux, and he said, let's wait. I said, we got to wait for the captain. He said, no, we're not. I said, look, he's running down the street right now. And we went there, and they had a truck full of marijuana that passed the roadblock with 12,000 pounds of marijuana.
Don't remember coming back.
All right. I forgot to mention one thing. Some of these stories get a little hairy, they get a little dicey. Okay, the safe word is Omaha. So when things get a little out of hand, just say Omaha and we'll change the subject. I forgot to say that right at the beginning. Pass the mic to Mr. Narcan.
Yes, sir. Oh, the other Narcan.
No, you next. All right.
Answer the question.
I'm old.
I didn't hear a question.
Okay, I'm old. This guy's almost as old as I am. In fact, he's got 52 years. He's got 52 years. He's older than most of y'all out there.
But they got some older ones out here, thank God.
The number of years he's been in the department, he's still got more time than a lot of you out there. In your 52 years, Mr. PJ, did you take a trip to Galliano?
Yes, I did. I was a lieutenant and with hook and ladder. My dad had just stepped down as chief, so he gets a phone call from Thibodaux Benoit. He answers the call. All right, he comes wake me up. He said, hey, that was Poop on the phone. He said, there's a fire at Galliano IGA. He said, it needs 16 down there. I said, all right. He said, my dad asked, he said, you need me to call somebody? I said, call Gerald. Gerald David lives down LaFay Street. I said, so I picked him up. We took the old ladder truck, Gerald and I, following Thibodaux, foggy morning, hardly any brakes in that truck. And I'm gonna say almost like One Eye said, that was the fastest I've been to Galliano. But right before we got there, Vigilance was there. And we on the radio telling them, so I think Alan Frost was the pump operator or whatever. I said, hey, get 2 lines ready for us and hook us up when we get there. And we pump, I don't know for how long, but that was the last fire call that they wanted the ladder truck to leave. I mean, the ladder truck was bought for the citizens of Thibodaux, for the buildings we had in Thibodaux. And but after that, that's when they realized, okay, look, that truck needs to stay in town. And thank God, departments around this area finally bought ladder trucks and also giving us a break.
When we're talking about that, Chris, you said something when we were at the last meeting. You guys everybody rode in the back of the fire trucks.
Right.
You had a hairy experience with one?
I think it was the last time I rode the tailboard.
I can imagine.
We were in a business meeting, which is the first Tuesday of the month, and we get a fire call during the meeting. So, of course, everybody runs through the door and into the truck house. And I think Brian Harang might have been next to me on the tailboard. And they went over the railroad track near Coburn's on Richfield Road at about 50 miles an hour. When both of my feet finally came back down on the tailboard, I think I was looking at Brian. And he had the look of death, and I had the look of death, and we said, never again, never again. But I want to tell you a funny story, too, because, a lot of this, Butch talked about your employers letting you leave to go to fire calls during work. And y'all know I'm an attorney, and I'm in a jury trial one time, and I hear familiar sirens, and then I hear the air horn of a fire truck. And the judge was Wolin Falgu. Oh, my God.
And when the truck horn passed on the Bayou side, I looked toward the window of the courtroom, and he goes, Chris Christopherson, don't even think about it.
Pass it down to Glenn. Let's get to the other side for a little bit. Oh, you got one?
Got one done.
Great. Okay, thanks.
It works.
Glenn, you're kind of one of the grandpas of this organization.
I don't know about grandpa. Omaha. Yeah, when I started, the equipment that we had compared to what we have now is just ancient. Like they're saying, at that time we were riding on tailboards of trucks. We had trucks that didn't have the pump capacity that we have today. They were standard transmissions, which most of y'all can't drive. And in our case, with the ladder truck, it was a double clutch standard transmission. So you grinded gears like crazy. I remember this one incident. We had competitive drills. And we'd all gone to Protectus Fire Station for the awards ceremony. And we got finished with our our drill at the competition. And we took all our gear and put them back in one of the members' trucks and so forth. We go to the Protectus Station, and the ladder truck, being as big as it is, parked along the highway. This is when it was on the Bayou side on LA1. Sure enough, a call comes in. So we all jump on the back of the ladder truck. We're going to be the first ones there. We run it somewhere in North Thibodaux. We cross the railroad track. The guy that was driving it, Mike Blanchard, was an excellent driver. He's making those turns. We get there. We jump off the truck. We open up the compartments and realize that all the gear is still in the pickup truck back at Protectus Station. But I got another little story for y'all. And those of you that have been chiefs are going to appreciate this story. You get to a fire, the house is burning, people are running all over the place. You got commands coming in, 17, I need you in front of the building, 18, find me a hydrant, I need you to hook it up. You get a call on the radio, chief, electricity's still hooked up. We got gas meter that's busted, we got gas blowing out. There's a report there's somebody still in the station. You got people yelling all over the place. And all of a sudden you get this real calm voice that comes over the radio. Headquarters to 13, Energy, Public Works, and a catering en route. We had some good dispatches back then.
Yeah, and she's right there.
She's right there. Stand up, Dee.
How many times in the middle of the night we as chiefs, assistant chiefs, guys on call have to go run these calls. First thing you get is a nice wake-up call on your cell phone. Good morning, and you always sense a little sarcasm in that good morning, right? But it's that voice that was very calming to all of us up here that served in those positions, and I can't tell you how much those individuals, those ladies, those professionals that assisted us in those times, what it meant to have your voice guiding us and giving us the, I guess, calmness in your voice that was radiating through the radio to help us be the types of calm leaders that we needed to be. So thank you to our dispatchers. We couldn't have done it without all of your help over the years.
And doing the things that needed to be done before we even called for them. Just knew what they had to do and got it done. Incredible.
Say that again, Tony.
Again, the dispatchers, in all that chaos, they know what you need, when you need it. They already have it in the works. It is really an extension of the service that we provide.
Amen.
Critical part of our group.
Amen. Amen. I want to come back to you, and I want to come back to Benton before we close, because there are some serious things going on. But how many of you remember Gene LaBeouf? Clap your hands, raise your hand. Anybody up here got a Gene LaBeouf story? Mike?
No, it's not Omaha yet. Some of you guys in the protective company, you might remember this because you probably were with me. We were at the fire station when it was on LA1, which is Copy Connection now, and they had a fire alarm came in for a fire in the country club. And we made, well, first of all, Gene LaBeouf was a guy that if you told him he couldn't do it, well, he would prove you wrong, because he would get the job done. He was a gung-ho guy, terrific guy, but he just drove like he was on Indy 500. We jumped in the back of his pickup truck to go to a fire in the country club. And when he hit Country Club Boulevard, he was on two wheels, and we actually kind of rolled in the back of his pickup truck to the other side. We were on one side and just rolled. And it was like, that's the last time. I didn't even ride back with Gene. I didn't even get in a cab with Gene LaBeouf. Never rode with Gene LaBeouf again. But he was a great guy, and I'm gonna tell you another little quick story. This was when I was in college, and I was at the Colonel's Retreat with a good friend of mine from Donaldsonville who had just bought a brand new Grand Prix, a 1978 Grand Prix. And the fire alarm started ringing. And this guy let me use his brand new Grand Prix to drive to the fire station. So I'm thinking, shit, I know I got the fire truck. I'm gone. I parked on the side to protect the fire station. Sure enough, I get in the fire truck and go. On the way back, pulling up, I see Gene LaBeouf's truck parked next to the fire station, and he's standing at this brand new Grand Prix. So I back the fire truck, and Gene says, "Who's this vehicle for?" I said, "That's for a friend of mine. He let me use it to come to the fire." He said, "Well, you better get him because I just crashed into the side of his vehicle." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah." So I had to go and get my buddy and tell him that Gene LaBeouf just wrecked his brand new car. That wasn't a fun experience, man. But anyway, anybody? I know you got
Here's a Gene LaBeouf story. Back when the fire horn would blow on the water tower, I was sitting in a car at the Jackson Street Bridge. Gene lived in North Thibodaux, and I could remember the original Chief's car? It was like a Dodge Fury.
Yeah.
I could hear the siren coming, so I waited at LA1 to see him cross the bridge. Well, he turned to go up toward Canal Boulevard, full speed. Two of his hubcaps went down Jackson Street. So instead of turning around and going to the fire, I went pick up his hubcaps and bring them to him.
Well, talking about Gene LaBeouf stories, when I was
I'll tell you another Gene.
a captain at DCH, I think, I was at the station at the corner of Jackson and St. Mary washing the fire truck. and we had an out-of-town one, which at the time there were only 3 companies that went out of town to fight fires. It was Protectors, Hook and Ladders, and VCH. And we were on standby, so we were the second unit out. Protectors was first. Of course, Gene caught the Protector truck, so I'm sitting outside just watching. And all of a sudden, right around the corner where the Gulf station was, here comes Gene in the Protector fire truck on 2 wheels. Makes the corner, thing hits, all of his hose falls off, his ladders fall off, everything comes off. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to this far. So yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
My Gene LaBeouf story is kind of funny. We had a fire over at Caldwell Sugars. I pull out the fire station and I turn toward the highway, and Gene LaBeouf was passing. He was passing on the highway. So I took a left, went by the Daily Comet office, well by Spars and the Venetian. I ended up on LA1, they were on 308. I had to come to a stop. I was in the new engine 19 with a 300 Cummins, that thing got it. But anyway, so we're going down LA1. I got to come to a rolling stop at Richfield Road. I got to come to a rolling stop at Tiger Drive. So when I get to St. John Bridge and I cross over St. John Bridge, Gene LaBeouf was down the road coming. Well, the day after the fire out, engine 19 had a governor on it because I beat Gene to the fire. Yeah, Gene was also our department mechanic, if y'all don't know that.
Ben. Oh.
Give it a second. Green light. Good to go.
Got it.
Good to go.
There's 385 years of fire experience with these 9 guys. 385 years. Now clap for yourself, because any putting 9 of y'all together, it would be very close to 385. I'll tell you, but 385 years. You the baby.
I'm the baby.
You the youngest.
And I'm the baldest baby probably that there is.
What made you do this?
You know, it was a lot of similar stories, right? When you're little, with the culture at Thibodaux, you go to the parades with your family, and you go and you look at, you know, the fellowship and the revelry of the parade, and you know, everybody wants to be part of something that's good and does well, right? Does good for others. So I have family. My dad was not a member, but my grandfather was. I had uncles. I had an uncle who brought me to Protector Fire Company as a young lad. But see, Chris, he's waving his finger at me, but I knew better when I joined, because I joined the company that my grandfather was the captain of. And I actually, I always do this, I'm a sentimental person, but this is Ben Rowe, my grandfather. This is his badge when he was captain of Thibodaux Fire Company #1, and I always keep it in my pocket for parade day and for special times. So tonight he's up here with us. But, you know, a very influential friend, a friend's father, very influential gentleman in the fire department, was one of the reasons, hanging out with him, going to calls before I was a member, seeing what it was like, and that's Mike Onkow, a giant of a leader in this organization. You know, as the baby of the group, when I joined, you know, Mike's company was Fire Company #1 too, so you know that might have had some other encouragement there, as well as the family tradition. But when I joined, most of the brothers and gentlemen that are up here, they were the guys that were in charge. So, you know, as an 18-year-old kid joining, I'm looking at these guys, and you know, these are my, you know, heroes or mentors, or you know, you're looking and watching what they're doing, how they're handling things, and you want to emulate that. And we had some really great teachers and leaders on this stage. You know, Josh was my captain as a new member. Mike was an assistant chief under Mike, and then Chris also, you know, he became assistant chief during that time, and you know, just now being a colleague and getting to work with them over the years, it's really been a fun ride, a fun experience, a lot of great stories. And listen, you know, everybody who's sitting out here tonight listening to these, everybody out there's got stories, and we hope that we can keep this going in some way, shape, or form to get these stories documented, recorded, and saved, because as Chief Browning said, we've got to tell our story. We've got to, you know, we used to have the Daily Comment and some other forms of media. We've lost that over time just through the natural evolution of the way things go, but it gives us an opportunity to tell a story, but tell it from our perspective, and to share all of the special attributes and the nature of what we're doing. So, you know, when you join, and I don't want to ramble too long, but I did want to, I guess, save this from a perspective of the young guy, the new guy. When you join, I believe you join for the adrenaline, right? We were talking earlier, it's like playing football. We all age out of high school, and then we need to join another team, and Swamp even said, you know, when I was invited to join, it was just like playing football. You just never knew when the game was gonna give you the opportunity to play. So teamwork, and then the adrenaline, and so on. And secondly, there comes that time or that call where you realize this is more than that. You're helping people. There's always the call for all of us that it changes your mindset a little bit. And now, even as the new guy, the third thing is you realize I got to leave it better than I found it for the next group, for the next guys, to be those leaders that these guys were to us when we all joined, and now we have the opportunity to influence the next generation and to allow them to come in and help grow the organization.
Yeah, and I want Chief to talk more about that when we close this out. I want you to come back, PJ. Who was with Wilton Meir the night his wife was having a baby? Was it you?
Not me.
Who?
I don't think any of us were with Wilton.
Okay.
But
but wasn't there a fire?
This is the story.
Yeah, but he's not know the story.
Okay.
Wilton's wife, Chad's mom, was...
This wasn't when Chad was born,
no,
right?
I don't think so.
All right.
But she's in the hospital in labor. We were an out-of-town company in the 33 rings, so it means we're going out of town. Wilton leaves the hospital, jumps on the back of the engine, and it starts heading down LA1 South. But we had these hard black suction hoses. You could yell to the front cab to find out where you're going, and he goes, "Where are we going?" And they go, "Golden Meta." And he goes, "Stop, let me off." Nope. He went to Golden Meta.
Go ahead, P.
I just wanted to add something to what Charlie said earlier about the Leggett fire. He was pretty close to saying everything right, but he said he saw the smoke when we hit River Road. Well, Mark Ordon and I were riding behind the truck, and when we crossed Bayou on St. Patrick Highway, you can see the plume of smoke. Now that was along the river in St. James. So we get all the way over there, it's raining, Mark and I got the tarp over our heads. I had hair then, and he did too. And when we made that turn to go to the tanks, if they didn't have 10 or 15 fire trucks parked on the side of the road doing this, and the vigilance, we were on the back of the vigilance truck, went all the way to the tank. All those other trucks were parked on the side of the road. That's how much people thought about the Thibodaux Fire Department.
You went all the way to the front?
All the way to the front, all the way to the tank. We were the truck, yeah, pumping. Yeah, and Thibodaux took over.
What about the plane crash?
Oh, that
was anybody there that night, that day? Mike?
I was there too, yeah.
The evening, I guess, that the plane crashed, I remember I was at work, and I had heard about it, but Thibodaux Fire Department hadn't been called then, and so we were actually, it was after work, it was after 5 o'clock, and some of us were out, we were at the foundry. And then David Hebert had, yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did.
That's almost.
And so David Hebert had gotten, I was the captain or protector, and David Hebert had gotten in touch with me. And he said, look, we just got a phone call. And it was not the Kenner Fire Department that called us. It was the Kenner Police Department. because they knew the operation was going to go into the night, and they needed a light unit. And so David said, look, we need to get some officers. I want some guys that are captains or lieutenants to come. We're going to bring Salvage 21. And back then we had, David was riding in a little mini pumper, and he said, we're going to get a few guys. And I rode in a mini pumper with David. And so, we got to Kenner, and we parked off of Roosevelt, I think it was, and we ended up in the shopping center. And then they told us where they wanted us to go. And the emergency light unit, did this just cut off? Or it's still on? Okay. We were just like a block from where the plane crashed. We provided lights, and I'm going to just say that it was total destruction. I remember me and I think it was Max Applewhite were walking, and one of the guys, they stopped us. They said, whoa, don't walk right there. There was a swimming pool that we almost walked into, and it was just covered full of debris. You couldn't even tell that it was a swimming pool. And then, other than provide lights, I mean, that's what we did. We never helped, as far as being part of the rescue, or, well, not really rescue, part of the recovery. We just kind of hung around by the light truck, but we were able to walk around a little bit. But it was, it was.
But one of the things too, Mike, if you remember, all you smelt was jet fuel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, it was like you were in the middle of everything. That's the thing that caught me the most, was the smell of jet fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. You're right, PJ. And so once they, after a while, we stayed there for quite a while. But then, we ended up coming back. And so I didn't go back. I mean, I don't think we got called back, but that was in 1982, and thank God we haven't had another plane crash anywhere nearby. But yeah, that was an experience you're just never going to forget.
Glenn, was it you talking about silver suits?
Yeah, I'd been in the department for probably about 6 months. Really didn't have a lot of experience, and that's when we had the fire at the Landry's funeral home. And what happened was there was a house that had a gas leak, and the house blew up, and it caught the next house on fire, and those two houses were next to the Landry's funeral home. And Chief David Abad came to me and said, I need you to put the fire entry suit on and go turn off the gas meter. Now, the fire entry suit was an encapsulated suit. It was, you had an air pack on, they put the pants on it, then they put the hood on you and stuff, and they secured you in it. There was no way you were getting out unless somebody took you out. And I looked him straight in the face and said, no. The silver suit, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you another story about the entry suit. The silver looks like an astronaut suit. And it wasn't at a fire, it was at a training. That is probably the most scaredest I have ever been. In the training center, we have some simulated oil props, like oil field, oil equipment. We have a simulated tank. We have a simulated gas well. And typically when you have a gas well like that, where you got to shut off a valve, you have two fire lines, and you use the pattern on the nozzle to push the flames away, and you can shut the valve off. That's the simulation that we have in the training center. One night they said, who wants to put on the entry suit and walk up to the gas well on fire and turn off the valve? No fire hose. You just walk up to the fire, in the fire, and turn it off. I said, I'll do it. So here I am. I put on the air pack, put on the suit. You can't see anything because it's so dark on the mask or the head suit. Until you walk up to the fire, then you can really see pretty good. And here I am. I walk into the Christmas tree, and I don't mean Christmas tree like Christmas tree in your house. The gas well. I'm walking and I'm in the fire, and I don't feel nothing. And I bend down and I'm turning off the valve, and then I feel a ton of water hitting me. I'm like, what's going on? So I turned the valve off and I backed out. And so I took the hood and I said, why y'all were putting water on me? They said, because your suit was smoking. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't feel nothing, but you mean, so that really made me think, was that smart to do that? Or was that stupid to do that? But anyway, I lived through it, and it was just an experience that when I think about it, that was the scaredest I was ever, walking into that fire. Yeah. Thank God we don't use those suits anymore.
Go ahead, Josh.
In my 40 years, those silver suits were obsolete. I just want y'all to know that. Thank God.
Barry.
Years ago, they used to tie a rope to the air pack person. Well, Mark O'Don was gone in his house. I was the rope man outside. We had a fan and a piece of plywood in the door. I heard an explosion inside. Before I can feel 4 times for help, Mark comes flying out. I said, what happened? He said, a Kentwood jug full of Mardi Gras beads just blew up, and I thought I was dead.
Pass. Tony, you got the mic? Okay. We're about out of time, and I kind of saved Tony for last. Tony, we allowed 45 minutes. We're about there. What was, well, I don't know how you do it, but you run us all, okay? Having said that, what's the most proudest you've been with this department?
I don't know if there's one particular time, you know, seeing what was accomplished tonight and the people coming out with the pride for this department, the support. I see it every time we respond to a call, and it doesn't matter what type of call it is. Now, I'm a little different. So I have a lot of military service in my family, but I don't have any fire service in my family. I grew up in the country club. Unlike these gentlemen, I don't have any uncles, grandparents in the fire department. In 1987, the house burned down in the country club, Doug Bullock's house. Thibodaux responded and played a big part in extinguishing it, and it whipped the neighborhood kids into a frenzy. And we all joined the local fire department, which was LA1 Lafourche Crossing. And in 1989, that taxing board decided to merge with the Thibodaux Fire Department. Mike Onkyle, Brad Robichaud, Gene LaBeouf were the fire chiefs. And I actually had to sit out for a few months because I wasn't 18 at that time. I was still 17. And then as soon as I turned 18, I wanted to be part of it again because I had gotten a taste of it in the LA1 Lafourche Crossing, and the rest is history. And I have had the incredible opportunity to learn from Mike Onkyle and that group of leaders, Brad and Gene LaBeouf, Mike Nakan, Chris, even the guys who I serve with, Glenn, Todd, and Brian, Randy Pate, and Chad Meir, just tremendous leaders of the fire department. But I'll tell you, every time we show up to a call, and that call could be as simple as a fire alarm, or that call could be, you know, a working structure fire. The members show up, they do their jobs, they make this community proud, and it happens over and over again, and it is really something special. And it motivates me, and I think it motivates them. And as Benton was saying, and Chief Browning, there is no one better to tell the story of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department than us. There could be any one of 50 people in this fire department, in this room tonight, that could be up here with more years than myself and Benton and have incredible stories to tell about their service and how they impacted, you know, the community and how it impacted them. The reward that I get and the reward that I see other people get from the service is unmeasurable. I look at the things that Randy Pate did with the Student Firefighter Association at Nichols and see the impact that that has had on our department. The Proby program at E.D. White and the members who are involved in the fire department through that, and it has really, really had a great impact on the fire department. So again, I'm proud every day in this fire department, and I'm probably the luckiest fire chief to ever serve in this fire department, because I have the resources of all this experience to draw on, and every time I call Mike, he answers the phone. I call Chris, he answers the phone. You know, everybody that is served their time and they have, you know, stepped back a little bit, they're always eager to help, offer guidance, and so, you know, they're always willing to help and share knowledge. So, you know, that's the message, and becoming something greater, to join this fire department, and each individual who's here tonight can still improve themselves, including me, and find something that we can do a little bit better to serve our community.
Amen. Go ahead, Glenn.
One thing I wanted to say, you know, we look at all the history of the fire department. Our first chiefs, L.A. Weber. Craig, was that an ancestor of yours? It was, huh? A.B. Reagan and S.T. DeMonde were the first chiefs. They had 2 hand pumpers, a hose cart, and a wagon with ladders in it. What would they think of this fire department today?
They'd go, wow.
You know, this fire department predates electricity, motorized vehicles, aircraft. You know, before we were actually formed, but activities were taking place in the city, the buckets and community member service and serving the community, predates the Civil War. And, you know, look at the equipment that we've been able to secure through community support, outstanding leadership from a lot of members up here and members in the department, being good stewards of the taxpayer money. And like you say, what would they think if they walked into this room tonight?
And it's not that long ago when you think about where we are now and where we were. PJ might remember this, hearing it from his dad, who was a fire chief, Charlie with his dad, Mr. Frank. Our parents, our fathers, came back from World War II and basically had to reorganize this fire department and had to reorganize the finances of this fire department. It was not uncommon at a business meeting that a hat was passed around the room to put in 50 cents or $1. You know why? To buy gasoline for the fire truck. So it was not always an easy road, even in the 1940s. I'm 5th generation fire department in Protective Fire Company number 2, and Benton would like this because I researched on chronicling America in the Library of Congress. I found out that a Riviere was an engineer of Fire Company number 1 before Fire Company number 2. So
say it ain't so.
But you know, the important part is, and I really want to thank all of the past grand marshals that brothers of mine, because what has happened is it's put us where we're in a position now when our trainers come to town. They come from Boston Fire Department, New York Fire Department, fire departments in Florida, and they are amazed at what we have. And I think it was summed up on a podcast one time with Aaron Heller, who brings in On Scene with Bart Simpson, who's here tonight actually. And they were describing a guy from New York Fire Department and Boston Fire Department training, and we had a house fire. And they jumped on one of our engines and went to the fire. He said it was like a fire scene in Brooklyn. If you look on YouTube and you'll see a big fire in New York, you might see 50 guys in air packs standing there ready to do something. And they said that's what Thibodaux looked like at a nighttime attic fire. And I want to thank the Grand Marshals and the public, because they come out and they make all of this possible for us. I remember when I was Grand Marshal in 2000, a school teacher started buying and bidding and bidding and bidding, almost the way you kind of got uncomfortable. And I met her about a week after the fair, and I thanked her, and she says, "You know why I did that?" She says, when my house caught on fire, you were the first person on my driveway. And she remembered it.
Before we go, let's go overtime just a little bit. I want to talk for a minute, not so much for the guys in uniform, but for the others that are here. Rescue. Can someone briefly tell us how it got started, when, and what it is today?
One of y'all. I can do a little bit. The rescue squad started as a result of there needed to be a way to get people out of vehicles at automobile accidents. Before we had the rescue squad and before we had a catered ambulance, the funeral homes they would actually provide ambulance service. And there was really not a whole lot of methods to get people out of vehicles. And I remember it was Mike O'Cow, I think he had the brainstorm to say, we got to do something. We got to be able to, Ronnie Bourgeois was another guy. The fire department had some equipment on the rescue, or not on rescue, on a salvage unit. They might have had a little hand-powered hydraulic ram. They might have had a few other tools, but it wasn't nothing, that was really adequate. And so what we did was we were able to buy some equipment, and we put it on that same mini pumper that I talked about. We had gone to Kenner in. And in 1979, we got our first rescue truck. And we equipped that with what they call the Jaws of Life and a lot of other rescue tools. We bought I guess you would say at the time, the state-of-the-art equipment to extricate people out of crashed vehicles. It's just ironic that the first person that we extricated out of a vehicle was a fireman. I think he was a member of, I'm not going to name him, but I think he was it may have been North Thibodaux Fire Company. And so just that incident by itself, that paid for what just being able to do that made it all worth the while. And our rescue squad has grown to where I don't want to say we have too much equipment, but we got everything we need. We can cut a car in half. You can just get people out of vehicles in no time. We got winches that can pull vehicles apart. We might have some people that could tell us a little more about the equipment. I don't know if you want to talk about that. But the rescue squad goes back to 1979. We had guys like Gene LaBeouf, Mike O'Cow, Ronnie Bourgeois, Al Dupree, Dave Paul Thibodaux, John Lashley, Jonathan Estev, a lot of those guys, some of them are still around. And so, we thank them. And just know that if you live in this community and you get in an automobile accident where you have to be extricated, you got the best set of equipment coming to help you.
Yeah, Mike, cars have changed so much over the years. I had the great privilege of serving with Al Bourgeois from Bowie Fire Company on the rescue squad, got in 1990. Ronnie was the director, Al's brother, and cars were built like tanks. So even low speed car crashes often required extrication, and then of course higher speed accidents required some very intense extrication. And of course, a lot of the rural departments at that time didn't have any equipment, so we traveled, both sides of the bayou, up and down the Fouche Cross and St. John area, and as cars became more focused on the occupant compartment staying intact and other parts crumbling and absorbing the energy, it kind of changed the game of extrication. But I can tell you that our department is very, very lucky to have the equipment we have. We have some outstanding members on the rescue squad. We have a lot of rope rescue equipment that our members stay proficient on. We've done recently some school bus rescue work and training with all the schools in our area, and the kids that travel up and down the highways and streets of our community. It's always a concern. We've upgraded as we've needed to meet the potential needs of the emergencies in our area. But one thing that we're really proud of is our rescue group and the equipment we've been able to secure. And again, it takes a lot of training, specialized training. You have to do these things over and over so that when the time comes, you're proficient at it.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, guys. Before we go, just one thing. I told you these 9 represented all of you and all of your stories. Stand up, Todd. 50 words or less, tell us a story. What was the funniest thing you've been through or you've seen in the fire department?
Omaha. You don't know what you're asking, Gene.
The funniest, I've got to go back to the hurricane we had a couple years ago. We were responding to calls, and we decided we were going to pass by South Thibodaux Fire Station, and for some reason there was a goat inside of a goat, a goat was there. I thought it might have been supper, but it was a pet. It was kind of one of the I'm not sure it's funniest, but the weirdest things, and we stand in front of I'll stand in front of these guys, and you all, I don't have the experience or the time that these guys have, but I stand in you as an assistant chief, very proud of you guys and all, and thank you like everybody else has done, and tell what a wonderful job you've done, and you continue to do for this fire department, and again, just out of the blue, I want to thank, like we did with the roses, thank the spouses, guys and gals. I'm very fortunate. Again, kind of like Tony said, my dad wasn't in the fire service. My grandpas were. Bri Albert in Protector. Pops was in South Thibodaux for a couple of years, really wasn't active. So we joined. I'm very fortunate. I have 2 of my children. Brady is captain of Protective Fire. Maggie is one of the first ladies in the fire service. So again, very fortunate for my kids to grow up, for me to be an assistant chief, for these 2 individuals to follow my footsteps and move up into the ranks of Thibodaux Fire Department.
Gene, 2 things.
Thank you, Todd. I told y'all. I told you. You could be any one of you.
Brian, stand up, Brian. And Glenn, this is the leadership team right now. Todd, Glenn, and Brian, and myself, and they do outstanding work. And again, I would wish we could have introduced everybody here tonight, but these guys are the heart and soul and do a great job for us. The second thing is, I believe that we have the oldest Thibodaux volunteer fireman with us tonight, Mr. Houma Acosta, who I believe is 96. Where's Mr. Houma?
All right, we're a little over time, but that's okay. Big round of applause for 10 of us, counting Todd up here. Big round of applause for them. Big round of applause for yourself, because you're all just like this. And I think you'll see in the future that we're going to pay more attention to your stories, all of them, and all of your memories, and we're going to try to get a lot of this recorded. So, hey guys, thanks a million. You made it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gene, for doing an outstanding job. Taking care of us this evening, keeping us on track.
You got it. Thank you much.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights.